Oftentimes we feel intense shame and despair for the things that have happened and how we have acted. But this is only because we claim responsibility for actions that do not belong to us. Let me explain why actions don't belong to you. There's different time zones in this world. Somewhere in the world there's nighttime. And here, where I am, there's daytime. Because it is dark, someone will be going to bed. And because it is light outside, I will be staying up. Now look how connected everything is. Because of the moon, one goes to sleep. Because of the sun, one wakes up. So what one does is not based on ourselves, but life interacting with itself. Does a star explode itself? Or does it just naturally explode? Does the star fizzle itself out? Or does it naturally, in the end, die? So everything is a natural process. Everything is due to that life force which courses through your body and moves everything. And without that life force, nothing can move. Shakyamuni Buddha had this beautiful quote: "Alas, this body will be lying on the ground, motionless." One day that will be you. Just imagine that for a second. You lying on the ground, motionless, with no life at all within you. No life force, nothing. Just your body, the same way a rock is just still and dead. One day your body will be also still and dead and nothing. But this is why we suffer. We forget these truths. And death is often treated as this scary, mean parent that ruins all the fun. But actually it makes everything fun, because it reminds you of the value of everything. And it reminds you, death, it's funny, even though death takes away life, it also makes life beautiful. Because if you can imagine losing your life force and being completely dead and motionless, then you start to appreciate the way your body moves, the way you breathe, the way you see. But we have forgotten the awe-inspiring beauty of just simply our movement, simply our breathing, because we're always seeking something more. And when we get that more that we think will satisfy what we think is less, we take the credit for that, and when it doesn't satisfy us, we hate ourselves, because we chase something that doesn't really mean anything. It's like a man who knew somebody was bad and still entered a relationship with them. He hates himself, not because she was bad, but because he knew she was bad and still continued. He betrayed himself. He betrayed the truth for pleasure. And it can be very tempting to take the credit for things. But when we take the credit for things, we also have to deal with the loss of what we attained. But he who has no desire to win can never be bothered with the pain of losing. It's not that he doesn't try to win. And it's not that he doesn't try to improve after a loss. It's that he realizes he wasn't the one winning, and he was never the one losing. It was all God, or that life force. When everything is going good, we love to take the credit. But when everything's going bad, that's when we run to the truth. But even if we can get to a point when even when things are good, we remain devoted, that's we will be in that stateless state. That's when we will be in our true selves. That is beyond the self. Once one realizes one doesn't do anything, then the need to impress disappears. The need for things to make sense or to make sense to others. And then the beauty of being a child comes back. One begins to see how beautiful things are when one doesn't desire for them to be different. Death is often forgotten about, but it should be remembered, and this is where devotion comes in. Just like that quote of the Buddha I told you, remember these words of the sages. I know they might seem scary, and I know nobody wants to think about death, but I'm telling you, the more you think about death, the more you will be free of the burden of the need to be something, to be special. What a great honor it is to just be ordinary, to just be a nobody. The Guru is here to remind you that you are not special. And in not being special, you find your own uniqueness. Nobody is special, but everybody is unique. The emperor and the homeless man are buried in the same place. This is why the devotee of the Sadguru, their main aspiration is to reach that stateless state, a state beyond all states, while others seek power and want to be a head of state, the head of state. The devotee of the Sadguru seeks the stateless state. Because the devotee of the Sadguru has seen through the futility of what one might call power. Why does one seek power? Because one always seeks comfort. But there is no comfort. And the less we try to seek comfort, the more comfort we will indeed have, surprisingly. It's when we try to become comfortable that we become uncomfortable. We should have the aspiration. A lot of people think aspiration or aspiring means to hope for something greater. But the devotee of the Satguru actually hopes to aspire for nothing, to hope for nothing. So they can do what they have to do without fear of winning or losing. Because what's going to happen is going to happen anyway. So why worry about how it's going to happen when no matter what you do, it's going to happen? And by the time it happens, it won't even have mattered that it happened because it'll be gone. There's so much fear, and it all ties back to the desire for comfort. And because of that desire for comfort, we often lie to ourselves about harsh truths. And when others point that truth out to us, and when I say others, life, events in life, because everything is alive, everything is one. So when we're faced with hard truths, we often combat harsh truths with delusion, thinking that this delusion will make the problem go away. But it's like putting a band-aid on something that needs stitches. You can tell yourself you're doing something, you can tell yourself all types of things, but the reality that you're injured and need something more will always show itself up. Because you're not applying the right medicine to a much bigger wound. That's what psychology is, a band-aid on a wound that needs stitches. And the devotee of the Sadguru is not ashamed of his wounds because they led him to the Dharma. They're not ashamed of scars. They talk openly about them because they don't desire for their ego to be comfortable. Often we think the comfortable state is to be beyond all problems, and physical and mental. But look around. We're in a world where people are constantly taken advantage of, where people are cheated, lied, where the same type of wars happen over and over again. But then there's also so much beauty. There's wars that happen over and over again, but in those wars, there's people that help and are committed to justice over and over again. But in the end, where does it lead? Nowhere. Everything leads to nowhere. So where is the comfort? Chogyam Trungpa had this beautiful quote. He said, "Nobody expects the sky to fall down on them. But the devotee of the Sadguru constantly prepares for this. Because he knows he has nothing, and he knows he is nothing. To be ashamed of how you feel is to be ashamed of God. Express yourself authentically, naturally, and unapologetically. Never live to be comfortable. Live to live. Yes, life is meaningless. But that also means even the statement that life is meaningless is meaningless. So stop trying to look for philosophies to comfort your mind and just go beyond the mind. Be devoted to the sages. Embrace harsh truths. Never run away from them. Even if people call you crazy for not being delusional and just seeing things as they are. I mean, this life is so shallow, and people are so okay with being shallow, but once you call them out for their shallowness, they don't like it. So, if you're gonna be something, own up to it completely. Don't lie to yourself. Don't try to make something what it's not. Because that's where it always leads. That desire for comfort. Out of fear. And anytime we make a decision out of fear, we're making the wrong decision. No matter how hard it is, we cannot live a life based on a desire for comfort. Be inspired by the sages who had no need for comforts. There was a wonderful sage, and she said, Shiva, anytime you give me food, make it fall out of my mouth. And some might call this insanity, but this is somebody who embraces suffering, who embraces the harshness and the truths of life. She's, in a way, outsmarted God. Because God can make you suffer, He can give you joy. But that sage, she had learned from her guru that God cannot torture me if I am beyond desires and wants. God cannot beat me if I desire to be beaten. God cannot crush my spirits if I have no desire to have a spirit at all. Life cannot disappoint me if I had no expected appointments. Just sit with me for a moment in silence. If you can. If your ego is ready to die. One may ask, what is the importance of devotion to the Guru if silence is the answer? Silence is in and of itself, but this mind and body still continue to move. So the only aspiration one should have is the constant aspiration for enlightenment. Only so few people can go beyond the comfort of thinking they know everything and thinking so highly of themselves, and it takes a rare wise person to be humble enough to learn and be humble enough to constantly admit that they don't know and to remain devoted to truth. As Sage Siddhar said, the greatest devotion is devotion to the Guru. The devotees of the Sadguru find that their difficulties become opportunities. Because they're so humble, because they're so beyond preconceptions, because they're so beyond their rigid knots of their ego, they can use when a string is caught in a knot, you can't use it for many things. But because the devotee of the Sadguru is so open with such love and such humbleness, they can use the rope for many things because it's not tied up in a knot.